to the cloud. There we go. Welcome, everybody. This is our weekly HR Rebels call for anybody that's new. Welcome. And this will be a conversation, so please join in, ask questions, get some more clarity, or share some of your best practices, because as you know, you get just as much from the presenters as you do from the other people in the room. So I'm very excited today to welcome our sponsor, Warrior Rising Foundation. And Jason Van Camp has a great story. I'm going to turn it over to the team to introduce themselves. And I was mentioning, if you heard before I hit record, he has a book, and I will put the link. I just downloaded the audiobook, so I'm super excited to listen to it, called Deliberate Discomfort. And so I'll put the link for that in the chat as well. So Jason, you want to start with an intro and tell us a little bit about Warrior Rising?
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. And I'm happy that my brother Casey and Lisa Garner are here as well. And a little bit about me and the Warrior Rising Foundation. So I was born in Washington, D.C., and so I grew up in Virginia out there, and ended up going to West Point to the military academy in New York City and played a little football while I was there. And I served a 2-year religious mission for my church to Russia, and then came back to West Point and was and graduated and was commissioned an officer in the military. At that time, I became a U.S. Army Ranger and U.S. Army Green Beret, deployed numerous times to the Middle East and Africa. Also spent a year in Korea. And in 2015, I ended up retiring from the military. Sorry, looks like we have some feedback. Maybe we can put some folks on mute, Michelle.
News out of the Bay Area. San Jose police officers in critical but stable.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, I appreciate that. Sorry, we're getting some feedback there. Ended up, getting sick in Africa and got a tonic-clonic seizure disorder. And so I had to retire from the military and ask myself the same question all veterans ask. Now what? What am I going to do with myself? And so I decided to follow my mother's advice, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I looked around at what my friends were doing. A lot of them were starting businesses. And so I started a business that trained professional sports organizations in leadership. And from that experience, we got a chance to work with almost half of the NFL and several Major League Baseball teams. And I started a nonprofit called Warrior Rising, because a lot of the veterans that we were bringing out to help with these contracts, they were asking me, Jason, we lost our purpose. Can you help me find our purpose again? Because when we were in the military, it was very clear. And now that we're out, it's no longer evident. And we have very negative thoughts and, life is really difficult. So what can you do to help us? And I said, well, I found my purpose again through business ownership. And I've found that most of them wanted the same thing. And so Warrior Rising is a 501c3, a veteran service organization that helps veterans find their purpose again through business ownership. And we started in 2015, late 2015. We helped 6 veterans. To date, we've helped over 70,000 veterans start their own businesses. We've raised over $22 million, and we're doing great things in the veteran community. One of the top 10 nonprofits, veteran nonprofits in the United States. And so that's what you guys are getting into. You're going to be helping Warrior Rising. You're going to be helping veterans. You're going to be learning a lot about leadership. You're going to be meeting some incredible people. And one of those individuals is my brother, Casey Van Camp. And so I'll let him introduce himself.
Thanks, Jay. Well, thank you everyone for inviting us. I'm very happy to be here. Well, my brother is definitely, as I say, Captain America. Uh, I did not fall into his footsteps and join the military. I focused on how could I support others? How can I support people growing and developing? I have over 20 years of experience in the HR sector and leadership and learning and development. Most of my work has been with the federal sector, federal agencies, and some nonprofits and some private sector industries. Through my experience, I've learned that leadership is not well defined in a lot of these organizations. I found that leadership is confused with management. How am I a manager? Let me be managed. Let me get these things. But rarely are we taught how to be a fully capable, a well-rounded, holistic leader. And working with my brother, we've come up with an idea of how to really grow what leadership means from an effective organizational standpoint, all the way down to the individual standpoint. Uh, Personally, I've worked, like I said, 20 years in the federal sector and the private sector. I'm bachelor's degree from Utah State in human resource management and a master's from Penn State in leadership development, training, and staffing. Been working hard, working with a lot of people, developing how to be a leader.
Well, I'll jump in and do a quick introduction for myself as well. So, my name is Elisa Garn. I hail from Salt Lake City, Utah. I have been an HR practitioner for about 23 years now, and I am a hard knocks gal. So, I did not go the education route. I started at a ski resort for the free ski pass and then got an invitation to stay on full time if I wanted to be the payroll and benefits admin. And with that came an amazing mentor who really like taught me everything I needed to know. Because at that point, you're 18, 19 years old and HR is like the principal's office. So he really taught me like everything about HR, including like strategy, leadership, the importance of training, like the connection of the recruiting process. It was such an amazing experience. And I attribute the rest of my career to his investment in me. So, like understanding leadership, like I definitely don't have the expertise or the depth that Casey does. But I will say, as somebody that comes from the hard knocks life of HR, I have lived and breathed it all, and also had enough of it that like I needed to come up for air. And I had a couple other stints where I started my own HR tech company, which was a mentor matching marketplace for a couple of years until I sold that. I've also worked with benefit brokers on essentially like brand identity and how to service HR professionals from the lens of what they care about and what their needs are. And I currently serve as the SVP of Talent Management and Sustainability, coming back to my roots. But I love, love, love this role specifically because it really encompasses all of the parts of HR that I'm most passionate about, which is that talent ecosystem and life cycle that plays through all of the employee experience. And I guess if I were to say one, maybe not necessarily unique, but I think a banner of what I care about most in this profession, it really drills down to human experience. I think we have such an exceptional opportunity to help shape and influence not just our local communities, but broader, I mean, if you want to get like really goosebumpy about it, the world, because we have so much. I don't want to say control, but like that opportunity to influence, somebody's livelihood or their happiness or fulfillment at where we spend 70% of our time during our working years. That's a really big task, and I don't take it lightly, and I don't think any of you either. So knowing that I've gotten to partner and get to know this curriculum better, going through it myself, obviously being a big fan of the book, I'm excited to talk a little bit about what my experience has been in bringing it to my team, my organization, and what it's meant for me personally.
That's awesome. Elisa, I think a lot of people in human resources have a similar story that we kind of just fell into human resources. I did myself. And I'm glad you enjoy. I was in a benefits call center when I started, and it was talk about a difficult manager. She came to work drunk every day. She took ownership for everybody's work. I learned the hard way what not to be when I was going to become a leader
Yeah.
from that
Sometimes those
experience.
are the easier lessons when you're getting started, right? I don't
Yeah,
want to be that.
don't want to be that. Don't want to be that. So, um, that's wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about the leadership program that you've put together. What makes it different? What are you seeing in the industry that is missing maybe in leadership development or maybe where HR professionals are kind of or organizations need to lean in a little bit more?
Sure. I'll start, and then Casey, at least you guys can jump in, and certainly want this to be an informal kind of presentation. So, guys, if it's okay, Michelle, they can jump in at any time
Go for
and
it.
ask questions or anything that they want. So, let me start with a question. So, why do we do hard things? And it's rhetorical. So, I want you to think about it. I want you to answer right now. Just think about it. Why do we do hard things? Is it because, we want a challenge, or we value things that are harder to achieve? We're conditioned to see how far we can push ourselves. Is it an ego thing? Is it for self-esteem? Is it because you're just bored and you're trying to avoid boredom? Is it because you are constantly seeking approval from other people? Could it be a form of self-sabotage? Why do we do hard things? You know? And that's
Juan's got an
exactly
answer.
what, go ahead.
Juan's
Is
got
it
an answer.
is it a rhetorical question, or you want to
It
actually want
is.
us to
It
give
is. It is. I
ideas?
don't want you
All
to
right.
answer. I want you to think about it. Yeah. I want you to think about it. So the reason why I'm putting that out there right now is because what we do, Casey, Lisa, and I, and my team, we teach the art and science of deliberate discomfort. And that's leading yourself and other people through the process of voluntarily, intentionally, and deliberately choosing to get comfortable being uncomfortable, choosing to do hard things. Everyone else is telling you guys seek comfort, take the easy path. We're telling you the opposite. We're telling you to seek discomfort. We're telling you to take the road less traveled, to be vulnerable, to expose your heart, to put yourself out there and to dare. And the reason why we're doing that is because whether you want to admit it or not, or hard times are coming, you know, they are. They always do. You can't prevent it. You might as well be proactive and prepare yourself and choose the hard thing first before the hard thing chooses you. Now, hard is relative, right? What's hard for me might not be hard for you, and vice versa. You probably have heard some leaders say things like, hey, make your bed first thing in the morning. And for some people, that might be very, very difficult. For me, I was at West Point for 4 years and we had to make our beds to an impossible standard at 5 a.m. every morning. That's not hard for me. You know what I mean? Like I've internalized that. That's like a knee-jerk reaction at this point in my life, right? It's hard to make your bed first thing in the morning when your wife's sleeping in it, but you guys understand what I'm saying. Other people might say, hey, take cold showers. Okay. That's hard for some people. Well, I lived in Russia for 2 years, and in the summer, in the spring and the summer, they turn off the hot water. And so you have to take a cold shower. And so you just kind of get used to it. And not to mention at the time the water was extremely brown and yellow, but that's besides the point. I got used to taking cold showers, and it's not a hard thing for me to do. But if it's hard for you, I want you guys to do it. Uh, I've got a buddy here in Utah. I live in Utah right now. I forgot to mention that I live in Utah. I've got a 9-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, and we live in the suburbs of Salt Lake City. And I got a buddy here whose nickname is the Iron Cowboy. And he's an ultra athlete. And Sports Illustrated actually named him the greatest athlete in the history of the world. And the reason is because he did 50 Ironman races in 50 consecutive days in all 50 states. You guys know what an Ironman race is?
Oh
Right?
yeah.
26, you start out with a 2.4 mile swim, then you do a 112-mile bike, and then you do a 26.2 mile run consecutively. He did those 50 consecutive times. Right. And I always thought, man, you're a badass if you can do one of those. Now I kind of feel the opposite. I'm like, wow, look at James, man, the Iron Cowboy. He did 50 of them. And then he actually followed that up a few years ago, just after COVID, by doing 100 in a row. Right. And so his hard, hey, James, we're going to do an Ironman this morning. Hey, no problem. He'll get out of bed and do it for me. Jason, we're going to do an Ironman this morning. Hey, man, you're going to have to give me like 4 or 5, 6 months to train up for this thing because it's not happening. Right. So the point is, whatever is hard for you, identify it, confront your fears about it, and face it head on. And the only thing that's going to stop you from doing that is fear. And I've always said that fear will kill more dreams than failure ever will. And so to answer your question, this certification, it's not a military style toughness training. It's a leadership readiness system that I created the philosophy for, and my brother created the architecture, and Elisa is giving us the practical application. So a lot of the guys that I bring on my team are Green Berets like myself, or Navy SEALs or Rangers. And what I've seen is they'll go in front of an organization and they'll speak. And the people in the audience will get excited. They'll be fired up for 2 weeks. And then that motivation fails, you know? And so what I've done is I've brought the science into this. And so it's not just a cool war story. It's like, all right, this is an interesting story. Here's the science behind it, and here's how we can relate it to what we're doing at our office. And so that's what's unique that other people don't have. Real world practitioners, doctors, experts, and then the translation into why it's relevant for you. And so I'll let my brother speak to that and Elisa as well.
Now, there is a real theory in learning. You guys can go ahead and look this up, called the forgetting curve. Basically, I summarize it as you go to a training, you go to a course, you go to something. A week later, you can tell me all about it. 6 months later, you will tell me that you went to the training, but you will not be able to tell me a thing about it. A year from now, you won't remember that you went to the training unless I bring it up. And even then, you're like, did I go to that? It's because those feelings you get when you're there, it's impressive, it's great. You're going to want to apply these things. You're going to remember these things. But if you don't actually apply it, if you don't internalize it for yourself, you're going to forget it. If you don't make this part of your routine, it's not going to be something you use later down the line. Jason said he woke up at 5 a.m., made his bed every single day. I don't do that. We grew up together. We're brothers. Our parents never made us make our beds in the morning. That was something he learned at West Point. And now, like he said, it's a knee-jerk reaction because he internalized it. He made it part of himself. That is what we do here. We teach.
Uh-oh.
There's big cliffhanger.
Oh, I
You guys
thought it
want
was,
to
I
know
thought it was
what we
me.
No,
Big cliffhanger. That's great.
he's mastered the art of storytelling. So you guys are on the edge of your seat.
Yeah. Teach us what?
To
What is
be
it, Casey?
So
Yeah,
it's,
You're
guys,
back. You're back.
oh,
he's back.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
We
I
lost
I'm
you
thought
for a
maybe we
while.
were going to have a commercial while we waited.
Yeah,
commercial
yeah.
break right now. I apologize for that. My
We
network
you
is
ended up we teach and then you froze for a while, Casey.
we teach the skills you need to apply how to be a leader in your life, whether it's in your daily life, at work, or at home, with your family, with your friends, how to be a leader for yourself and for others.
So my chime in on that is like probably like many of you, Michelle, you mentioned that there's a lot of people that have a similar path to mine. We are preaching to the choir with this stuff. Like, I think that all of you, I've seen the head nods, I've seen the agreement. I think that you guys understand fundamentally not just the importance of leadership development and certification. Like, this program is unique and different in the way that I feel it applies to the human rather than the leader. But I think conceptually, you probably all have been taught so many different keynotes and courses and professional development along the way of what makes a good leader and what do those practical things look like. But what I have really loved specifically about this is it does, Jason referenced this and Casey kind of gave a wink to it as well. It really does focus on developing the human at the center of leadership. And what I have liked about it as somebody that went through it personally, instead of just focusing on like, well, you need to have active listening skills and you need to be able to like get in the trenches with your team and like all of those things are yes important and there's modules to support all of those ideas and how to do them. But it also talks about like you can't show up for others unless you are whole yourself. And so focusing on how are you meeting your own emotional needs? How are you meeting your spiritual needs? Like how are you in a place where your cup has enough in it to be able to fill that of others. Because ultimately, like leadership is such a stretch requirement, meaning like we kind of rubber band back and forth as leaders, where sometimes we have a lot of stretch to give because our cup is full. And there are going to be times where one more little inch and we're going to snap, we're going to break in our rubber band because we just don't have those other parts of our life fulfilled. So in looking at, I think this group probably also recognizes how many days does it take to create a habit? Do they say, is it 90 days? Is that what it is? I don't know.
Used
I
to
think
be
it's
21,
okay. Well,
but
maybe
maybe now it's
maybe it's
9.
21 if you're making your bed. I don't know. But you think about that of what makes a great leader is a good human. And so, like, focusing on who the individual is first to develop the appropriate habits and behaviors and consistencies of being a good human at the core of that, then you can start layering on, more of the practical pieces of the how to. So, I'm not saying that's what all of you would get out of it, but for me going through it, that was an aha of something very different than I've experienced in other programs, that has helped it stick with me, let alone resonate with, how I show up for my team at work and how I show up for my team at home.
Well
So,
said, Elisa.
so can I jump in a minute here?
Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. Um, so I've been in HR about 25 years, and I think the eye opener for me was I had to learn how to lead without authority.
Mhm.
Because in HR, people don't work for you, they work with you, right? So you have your team, but I think a lot of times in the HR world, we get so hung up on the tactical and the tasks that we forget that, we have to bring significance to the organization. And I think when I started focusing on that, like, how can I be more significant? And I think to your point, Elise, the two big learnings for me was to jump in and learn a lot more about emotional intelligence and then the DISC profile. So I really believe, like, I teach leadership classes, and the first thing I teach is let's learn about me first. Okay. You have to understand who you are and what drives you and what are your hot spots like, and then what are your talents, right? I think so. We have to focus on what is our strength zone, and then we have to accentuate it. But I think again, a lot of the HR people that get frustrated in their world really struggle with how do I lead without authority? And I think that comes back to character and transparency and the things that transparency piece is the thing that in HR they've kind of taught us, well, you can't really be transparent because you're in this role and you don't want people to know about any of your laundry, right? Well, people knew about my laundry. It was okay, right? And so I think at least that was a learning for me. So new people coming into HR anyway, and that's the thing that I struggle with. So I guess maybe I would put that to you, to Casey and Jason.
Mhm.
What things would help somebody to say, how can I lead without authority? Because the title doesn't mean anything. It's like, really, what does my actions mean everything? But what are some things that you would focus on, right, to teach people that? Because I think a lot of people are in that position. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll get off.
I
I've talked too long.
no, don't get off. Stay there. No, I've always said that there's a difference between management and leadership. Management is you have the authority from the higher ups to manage the team, manage the situation, manage the budget, manage all these other things. But leadership, it can come with authority, may not come with authority. For me, being a true leader means you have a respect for yourself and for others. You're there for others. Like Lisa was saying, you have that bucket, you have that bandwidth to feed other people, to help other people. And true leaders are those that other people respect. Other people know they can go to that person for help, for support. And that's what we show is that to be that leader, to be a leader, you need to be holistic. It's not learning one method, it's not learning one tool, it's not learning some framework of this is what a leader does in this particular moment. It's being ready at all times to apply what you know, apply what you're able to do in various situations, and being the reliable person that everyone can go to. And that's kind of where we're coming from is we want people to learn, to grow, to be ready to serve as a leader. That's what we want to push people to understand is that leadership is not management. Leadership doesn't inherently come with authority, but it is given authority by others because they respect the person. They know that leader is a leader.
Could I chime in real quick? So at Blood Cancer United, we introduced a new leadership philosophy for our organization earlier this year. And as part of that, there's a big sentence call out of everyone that works with our organization as a leader. And for us, we have defined 4 leadership buckets. So we have senior leadership, we have essentially like mid-level managers, we have people manager frontline, and then we have leadership through influence. So exactly what you were just saying, Randy, like we have a dedicated call out bucket of you're still a leader. We still have expectations of what that behavior looks like and performance standards attached to that that translate into you don't necessarily need to have a title or even some of the hierarchy that comes with that in order uh, to have those leadership behaviors that emulate. And I think what's interesting about that, again, I know we keep pulling it back to like even in thinking through the curriculum, I love the fact that nothing has to do with the authority of it. Like nothing really ties directly to when you get this title or when you get to this point in your career or when you're leading a team of so many people. It really is about the baseline concepts, again, of what leadership is, not leader as a title. So I hear you. And I will also say, as an HR person that again kind of grew up from this and didn't come with the education that sometimes gives you that like front door credibility, I have also had to fight those fights. It all comes down to relevance. If you are not relevant in the conversation you're in, why are you there? My first HR leadership role, I was frivolously taking notes. And, my first board meeting, I was so excited to just be in the room. And questions were flying around. And eventually my CEO asked me a question about, I don't know, attrition or something like that. And I knew the answer. I couldn't wait to be like, it's this. Here you go. Aren't you so glad that you invited me to this board meeting? Immediately after that meeting, our chief legal officer pulled me aside and essentially said, if you're going to show up that way in meetings, you do not deserve this title. And of course, I was offended, and he was the biggest asshole that I had ever worked with, and it was the worst ever. 5 years later, like I reflected on that because I was going through a leadership development course and attached the fact that, like, what he was saying was, there's more expected of me in that room. I don't just get to sit there and take notes and listen and wait until I'm called on. I needed to exemplify leadership capabilities in that setting to provide the relevance needed. So I know that's a longer, maybe a bit more ambiguous answer, but for me, it hits close to home. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'd like to jump in here.
go ahead.
Uh, uh, first off, Jason, thank you very much for your service. I'm very familiar with Warrior Rising. It's a great organization. So, Casey, Jason, thank you for starting that. Thank you for founding that.
Thanks for the kind
Uh,
words.
yeah, no, really, really, from my heart. Uh, so, in terms of leadership, I've read a lot about leadership. And I think there's two schools of thought, right? And then one school is you can train for it, you can try to develop it. But another school of thought is you can't, that you have, that there's something innate about it that is almost undefinable, but that it's there and people recognize it when it's there. Yeah, I have this saying that my kids just grew so tired of hearing, but I always would say it to them every time they whined or complained about anything. It was, who must do the hard things? And then the answer was he or she who can, so it's interesting. And I'd like to, especially Jason, you've obviously gone through a lot of fire in your military background. I'm kind of curious what you think of that, that kind of like those two opposing points of view about leadership. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one for the ages, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I've heard it before. I've thought about it. I've studied it. And the best answer I can give in any situation is it depends. And in this situation, I'm telling you, it's both, right? And what I've seen is people are born with some skill, talent in something. Perhaps it's leadership. Perhaps you're the oldest child, or perhaps you've been thrust in a certain situation where, your brain was trained at an early age, and that's kind of a part of your personality and your values moving forward. And for others, they don't have even, a seed of leadership ability, but they've been thrust into a role and they have to perform. And so the reason why I have this company is because I believe that you can train leadership, you can cultivate leadership, you can help people become leaders. You can help people become leaders that don't want to become leaders and they need to be. You can help people that are leaders that want to be better. You can help people on any level of the spectrum that have a desire or a need to be better. And I would say this, you might be thinking, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But what we want you to think is, if it ain't broke, let's break it and make it better. And that's exactly the mentality that we preach at our company, you know. And to where's Kelly? I think Kelly, no, Randy.
Yeah.
Randy asked the question before. Randy, you said, hey, listen, what's the one thing that you have to help people? One leadership trait, in the special forces, what we see that's most missing in corporate leaders today, it's know thyself, right? It's who are you? It's that self-command piece, knowing who you are, what your values are, and that's what we're all about here. Your values, and for me, learning who I am, my values, 3 to 5, I would say the top three: determination, resourcefulness, and loyalty. That's who I am. That's what I'm all about. I make decisions based on that, and I hire people based on that. If people reflect those values, then we become best friends, immediately. And they do the work that I want them to do because they're making the decisions that I would make were I there, you know? And if we're able to help them make those decisions and then turn up the volume on that, then we have something that I call decision velocity. And that's exactly what you want as a leader, people making good decisions quickly, right? That's how you'll scale and you'll have a great business. Because the thing is, you'll hear about discipline all the time, but discipline will fade. It always will. And I work with a lot of professional athletes and they'll say, Jason, motivate me. And I'll say, hey man, I can't motivate you. And they're like, what are you talking about? Isn't that what you do? You motivate people? I'm like, no, 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 no. The only true motivation is self-motivation, right? All I can do is inspire you. I can inspire you to motivate yourself. And once you motivate yourself, you'll take action. Maybe it's getting 1 foot out of bed in the morning earlier than normal. Maybe it's going to the gym when you really don't want to. Maybe it's eating the greens that you don't want to have in your diet where pizza would be easier. Whatever it is, you take action. Usually it's something small. And when you take that action, eventually and hopefully quickly, you start to see results. And when you see results, then it kind of self-feeds back into this cycle where you inspire yourself. And when you inspire yourself, you motivate yourself to take action and then you see results. And so that's what we're trying to do for your people, is to get to the point where they know who they are and they can self-inspire. Casey, do you have any thoughts on the question? That was a great question. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, it's that eternal debate, nature versus nurture, right? I see it as, just as Jason said, people can start out as the greatest leader in the world, but if they don't do anything with that, they will quickly be someone people don't follow. And you have the opposite of someone who maybe isn't charismatic, maybe isn't the most naturally born leader or naturally born leader at all, but they work hard every single day to be a better leader. They can learn to be the greatest. Now, you're giving me the option of someone who is a natural leader but doesn't put any effort in versus the person who's not a naturally born leader but works every day at it, really truly wants to be the leader, to be a leader, your leader, their leader, internalizes it, makes themselves better. That's the guy I'm going to follow, the person that's putting in the effort. So nature versus nurture. Are leaders born? Are they made? Yes. There are born leaders. There are leaders being made. Now, the best combination is a naturally born leader that wants to work at it every single day to become better. So that's where I'm at. That's what we're doing. We're giving opportunities to make yourself a better leader. Whether you're naturally born to be the best or you want to work hard at it, you need opportunities to learn, to grow, and to apply those skills.
I'll give you another example. So same thing with professional athletes. You'll see some guys that aren't quite as talented that just work their asses off. And you see some guys that are just oozing talent and they coast on their talent. They don't work hard at all because everything comes easy for them. And so what we say is hard work will beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that's absolutely true. And that's what my brother said. The ideal situation is you have someone who's talented at leadership and works hard. Perfect. But if somebody who has no talent is working their ass off and training up and reading books and becoming an improved individual as a leader, that person is going to beat the individual that was born with those leadership traits every single time.
I think Megan had her hand up for a little bit there. So Megan, I'll let you ask a question before I jump in with another one.
Thank you for the answer, by the way, guys.
Great question.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I'm not on camera. I'm actually driving right now. My name's Megan Gilson, and I just joined the HR Rebooted team as the leader of the AI Advocate program. And one of the things that comes to mind, and I don't necessarily always like to draw attention to, men versus women, but as a mom and all the roles that I've played, whenever people have asked me, well, how do you do that? Or how did you do that? And I always thought that was a strange question because in my mind, and this goes back to your question of who does the hard things, well, or why do we do hard things? And in my mind, it's like, well, what choice do I have? I have to do the hard things, and it just depends on which hard thing I want to do. There's a saying that's like choose your hard, right? Doing something is hard, but not doing it is hard. Leading in this way is hard, but failing to do it is hard. And so choose your hard. And I wonder if the way that women are programmed to lead and men are programmed to lead is different, and the motivators are different. Have you noticed anything to that respect?
I'm going to jump in. I haven't seen specifically between men and women, but I've seen between individuals. Every individual is hardwired to be motivated by different things. Every motivation could be from small things about getting up early and having an extra cup of coffee. That makes some people like, oh, I got to get that before I get going in the morning. Other people are just, hey, I got to spend the weekend out in the woods. That was great. So between men and women, I personally have not seen a distinction at that level. Sure, there is. I focus more on the individual, and definitely each individual person has different motivations and different things being built into them. You work in an HR, you work around a lot of very dedicated, very talented women, especially when I was starting in HR. All the leaders I was working with, all the people around me were very talented women that were showing me how to be a fantastic HR individual. And my first mentor in that space, she was great. She told me that, hey, start looking into leadership development, learning and development type of work. This is really up your alley. And she helped me grow and find a great master's program that got me into there. But to your point, kind of just motivation is unique. Motivation depends on the person. What do you find motivating? What do you find demotivating? What expectations do people have for you? Are they gender based? Are they from somebody's perceived impression of you? Where do you go from there? Where do you grow? How do you showcase what you truly are to someone who may just look at you at a very high level? So yeah, I mean, each individual has their own motivation.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree to that, Casey. So I think the problem that we have in life, one of the problems between men and women is we just try to generalize everything. Like all women are this, all men are that. It's just not true. Everyone has their own motivations, their own desires, their own values, their own abilities that they were born with, and everything that comes along with it. As a Green Beret, we were trained to work with indigenous forces, and one of the things that they taught us was in the Vietnam era when they were training local Vietnamese to fight the North Vietnamese, what they would do is they would look for indigenous soldiers to train as snipers, right? And they found that the men that they trained had a very difficult time pulling the trigger, taking a life, you know, and they found that the women did not. They were very easily influenced to become a sniper and to take a life. And the reason is because if you tap into that mama bear instinct that these people are going to kill your family and your children if you don't take action, women had no problem pulling that trigger and making that decision and taking that life. And I'll give you another example of one of the instructors that you're going to learn from when you come out to Utah for the certification, Dr. Sarah Spradlin. She, as a mom, was kind of forced to do laundry, for the family, and she hated it, and she would curse under her breath, her husband, her children. Why is it that she's the one that has to do this? It's not fair. It's not right. And then she realized that the task itself, doing laundry, was easy. You just put dirty clothes in a washing machine, you put the detergent in, and you turn the power on. That's it. What she hated, what she detested, what she was repulsed by was the feelings associated with that task. And I think in general, women are more social creatures and they tie emotions to more things. And that's when Sarah kind of told me about the power of emotional dexterity. And that's something that you're going to learn when you come out to get your certification. And it's removing the feelings associated with a menial or easy task from the purpose of it. And I think you guys will be really interested because the curriculum that we train is focused on 6 major things: mental, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, and professional. And that goes back to what my brother was discussing with this holistic idea of leadership. And as you guys are learning these certifications, we have 12 of them that we offer, and you can choose 6 of them to get your certification. So you can choose the ones that are the most interesting to you. We talk about trust, building high trust with teams, self-motivation, coaching and feedback. Talk about flow state, leading through change, attention, accountability, judgment, and integrity, the emotional dexterity piece that I was talking to you about, self-awareness and leadership identity, culture as a leadership system, leadership skills that matter in the form of a creed, stress, both eustress and normal stress, and how that looks in the ethical business world, decision making and complexity, compartmentalization, adapting as a leader, and then analysis paralysis. So those are the 12 classes that we offer, and you can choose 6 of those, and you'll get your certification with our course.
I hate doing laundry, probably for the same reason.
This,
I actually like it when it's sometimes it can be cathartic when you just need a break and you're just like in the rhythm, but I hate it most of the time. I have found, and to Casey's point, there are leaders that are they're just natural leaders and they're not investing any time in it, and then we have leaders that are really working hard at becoming good leaders. What I found, and there's other HR pros on this call, is that we tend to invest in leadership training when the leader is failing and not when the leader is doing well. And so and I know, Elisa, you've gone through this training yourself. And so what is the benefit of not waiting until someone's failing? And how do you convince to Randy's point, we have to influence, right? Influence without authority. How do you influence the executive team to invest in leaders that are already doing a good job?
Oh, this is so timely. So just yesterday we had our all enterprise, basically like a town hall where we had all 1,100 of our employees attend our fiscal year kickoff. And my VP over learning and development was doing a training on individual development plans. because succession planning is really, really big for us. It's part of our CEO's action plan. Like it's got board visibility. So like it's a really big deal for us. And I think that stems from, it wasn't necessarily something that I personally advocated for, or even our HR team, but it came from a result of having a very weak bench when we needed to replace our CEO. So we had one that was retiring, and we had zero candidates ready to go. And so I think what was interesting about that is, again, that got the board interested to say, you guys got to figure this out. Like, you need succession planning, you need to build a bench. I was hired shortly after that as part of that need. And what we have seen over the last year and a half is we have started introducing some, like we're doing the traditional 9 box to get started. We're doing behaviors, we're looking at potential, like all of those things are coming into play. But what is so interesting about the time of your question, I was meeting with my VP yesterday after our enterprise meeting, and she said, I get so many requests for coaches punitively. Exactly what you just said, Michelle. It's like this person is not performing, but we've invested a lot. It's a very expensive role. We don't want the turnover, but they're not doing well. So if we just get them a coach, then they should do fine. The challenge with that is that responsibility is the leader's responsibility. When it's punitive, or when there is performance challenge, or when it's something related to you're not quite meeting the mark, that is a conversation and expectation between the direct manager and the employee that's struggling. But what we've done is, like, we've essentially said, like, if we have extras, maybe, but our priority is to attach our leadership courses and certifications and development programs to those that have been identified as potential successors. That is where we are investing first and foremost, because that's where we get the biggest ROI. If we continue to invest at a time where they've already produced, they are already performing well, they have already expressed, promotion capabilities, why would we not want to take that investment there rather than trying to come around the back and correct something that's already not working well? So we have an advantage there. I understand that, we have that leadership buy-in at the get-go, but I will say, delivering on that, going back to the thing I mentioned earlier about relevance, if we didn't show the results of those efforts, we would lose credibility. So you do have to be able to deliver, not just this is what we should do and I've got a good idea. You've got to have a plan and be ready to execute. So I think the part of my career where I've struggled in not getting this right is trying so hard to build what we would refer to as the business case, but doing it through an emotional lens instead of a data lens. I can go in and I can sell the heart, and I can talk about why it's important and people are going to love us and our employer brand is going to explode. But until I come in with the numbers and the data to show what happens if we do, what happens if we don't, I have not seen success in trying to get investment in things like this.
If you don't mind, if I just jump in for a second, I see everything through my own personal lenses, as many people do. And I'm a longtime recovering alcoholic. And so there's an acronym around recovery programs, FEAR. And it alternatively stands for face everything and recover, or F everything and run. And it seems to me that every one of us, every day, every moment, whether we're in leadership or not, make that choice. We decide, are we going to do what we can to grow, develop, be who we want to be, or are we going to do everything we can to deny, to gaslight, to shift blame, and to run away from it? And it seems like that's kind of what you're talking about here, is training to be on the recovery side of that, because we all need to recover from our bad behavior. Leaders more than anyone. I mean, we can look at the national level right now. My God, how wonderful would it be if we could send some of our leaders through a program that taught them to actually lead?
Yeah, that's a great point. I like the analogy. So we're getting close to the end. I want to make sure we have time to share. Jason, you have a special offer, but as you go through that, maybe also touching on what kind of leader is this training for? So we've talked about the different types of leaders. and the areas of the business that tend to get a little bit more attention when somebody's failing. So what kind of leader is this for? And then if you want to share your slide as well, you can do that.
Absolutely. And thanks for the time. It's been great. I hope everyone got something out of it. So what type of training is, let's see, who is this leadership training for, essentially, is what you're asking. I would say this. Frankly, I don't care how impressive someone looks when the plan is working. Everybody is trustworthy until it's time to be trustworthy. Everybody is loyal until it's time to be loyal. When the plan breaks, you get to find out who people are. You get to find out who you are, right? And that's the type of leader that we're looking for. Someone who wants to improve themselves, someone who wants to send people on their team that they want to find out what they're made of. Because the blind spot that we're looking at is the difference between performance and pressure readiness. We have a saying in the special forces, we cannot mass produce special forces soldiers after an emergency occurs. Mm-hmm. You have to be proactive. You have to prepare. You have to do it now, or else everything will fall apart. It's the circle where, you become complacent and you're comfortable and you're lazy. And then all of a sudden a tragedy happens, a travesty, trauma happens, and then everything falls apart. You have to build everything back up, and it takes a long time. And I told you guys in the beginning, hard times are coming. You can pretend that it's not. It's going to come. I guarantee you that. What you do right now, the decision that you make right now, is going to show you that you can succeed. It will prove to you that you are going to be victorious. It's a guarantee that you're doing the right thing. And so to springboard off of that into what you're going to get, we have a 2-day leadership summit in Salt Lake City, Utah, March 18th and 19th of 2027. That's a Thursday and Friday. It's a 12,000 plus person conference. It's intended for military veterans. It's intended for active duty military. It's intended for people that want to learn about tech and people that want to learn about leadership. And what you guys get is, when you show up on the first day, there's 4 hours of main stage speakers that you have access to. And we're talking to people like Elon Musk, Pete Hegseth, Jocko Willink, Urban Meyer, Zach Shepard. We're going to talk about interesting, relevant topics like AI and quantum, data centers, leadership, predicting the future, HR, politics, the military transition, entrepreneurship, defense technology. We'll have a break for lunch, and then we'll have secondary stage speakers. And for those folks, you have access to those folks as well. All the same topics, including social media, nonprofits, entertainment, best-selling authors. And we've got just a group of amazing speakers. Every 30 minutes, we have another one up on stage. And while that's going on, you guys will be going through your leadership certification course. And we have 6 private rooms, an hour per each class. We have some amazing instructors, doctors, military veterans, men, women, experts, the practitioners, researchers, the whole thing. And you get to choose 6 of the 12 courses that you want to go to. And then we'll have a test, that you guys have to go through to actually earn your certification. So the certification isn't, hey, you show up and get a certificate. You actually have to do some work to get this. We expect more out of you to be here and to do that. And on top of that, you're coming out to Utah right in the middle of prime ski season. So we have discounted Epic passes to go up to Park City. For those folks that are sort of experiencing Las Vegas fatigue, Utah is something that I think everyone should experience. It's a wonderful state. It's a wonderful time of the year. On top of that, we have the Utah Jazz and the Minnesota Timberwolves playing each other. We have discounted tickets for that at night. We have discounted tickets for the Utah Mammoth and the Chicago Blackhawks the next night. And then we're on the verge of getting Post Malone to do a closing ceremony for us on top of that. Other things that we can offer you guys that might be of interest. We have discounted hotel rooms. We have the Fly Fisherman. The Provo River is the top 5 fly fishing river in the world. We have a Warrior Rising business plan pitch competition that you can observe and watch. We have a lot of companies that have exhibit booths that are looking to hire if you're looking to get a job or change your career path. We have a number of Medal of Honor recipients that will be hosting a firing range if you want to go out and shoot some guns with some actual heroes, some real patriots. And we have some raffles and some auctions and some VIP access areas and some private after parties and private introductions and so forth. So you guys get all of that in addition to working on your certifications. And on top of that, I'm going to share with you guys a QR code, okay, that you can scan. And now, if you scan this QR code by September 18th and you put in the registration prompt HR Rebels, you'll get $500 off. And we're reasonably priced. And I think you guys will get a lot out of this training. You'll meet some incredible people. You'll have a great time, unbelievable value. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have about it.
Great. Thank you, Jason. If you could also put in your contact information, I did put the Warrior Rising Foundation website into the chat. If you could throw your stuff in there so people can grab it. We will be sending this out in our newsletter as well. And the replay is on our YouTube channel if you wanted to show it to leaders in your organization. But we'll share some additional information through our newsletter this week.
Fantastic. And my email, guys, is simple. I'll write it in the chat as well. Jason@warriorrising.org, O-R-G.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The HR Rebooted is a veteran and woman-owned business. And so we thank you for your service and for what you're doing with Warrior Rising Foundation and taking the time to spend the day with us today or the afternoon with us. And next week for the HR Rebels, we have a special session that's actually 11 to 1. So it's a little bit more extended, and it's AI done right with Megan, who you've heard from already on this call, myself, and Rebecca Hawkins. So we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everyone.
So I have just one last comment, just one question. Jason, are you familiar with the TV show Lioness?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet, though.
There's a guy on there that could be your doppelganger. Looks just like you. He's a special forces guy. I thought it was really interesting. Just wanted to mention.
I'm gonna check that out right now. This guy better look good, Kelly.
Yeah, no, yeah. You're a little better looking. I'll give you that.
All right, there you go. Yeah, seriously though, if you have any questions, let me know, guys. I'm here. If we can stay on a little bit longer, Michelle, I'll answer questions. I'm happy to do that. But if we have to sign off, that's all right as well.
Any final questions? I feel like this is a topic we could go on for. It was a good topic, good conversation. Like we could talk for a long time around leadership.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I have. I'll give you one. So Jason, do you have an example for yourself? That you kind of model your own look, your own view of leadership on someone who, in particular, of all the leaders that you've seen, that really stands out to you? Do you have anybody that it really inspires you?
Yeah, there's everything in my book talks about the best leaders I've met and what I've learned from them. And so Deliberate Discomfort, it follows my journey just after I earned my Green Beret and I walk into my new company for the first time, and my boss says, "All right, Jason, uh, you've earned your Green Beret. We're going to deploy to combat in a few short weeks, and you're going to be at the tip of the spear with your team. And I not only want you to survive, but I want you to thrive. And in order to do so, you need to understand how we work as a company." So every chapter thereafter, I talk to a different individual in my organization about leadership. And then in that same chapter, we break it down into scientific theory and then also into practical application and real world relevance. And so everything, well, not everything, but most of the greatest lessons I've learned are contained in that book. And I have another book coming out, which is the sequel to Deliberate Discomfort, and that will be out by the time you guys attend the training in Utah as well. Now, as far as the best leader I've ever met is he's a peer of mine. His name's Clay Daniels. A lot of times, you think, hey, what would Jesus do? As a leader, I think to myself, what would Clay do in this situation? And he's a good buddy of mine. We played football together at West Point, and he just cares. He just really cares about being a leader. He cares about his men. He cares about his team, and he just consistently makes good decisions in a way where it's not too strict or rigid. And I just think to myself that he's the best. you know
Thank you.
Hey, Jason or Casey, Jason, other than your book, what are two or three books on leadership that you've read or that you would recommend? I'm a pretty close follower of John Maxwell, so I've read
oh
a
yeah.
lot of John's material. Actually, I'm going to his conference this weekend to get immersed in leadership again. So, other than John's books, what are two or three other ones that would resonate with you?
Yeah, you can see some of the books behind me. I've got a whole library of
Yeah,
books in my
I did.
office. I love John Maxwell. Fantastic. These over here are my favorite books up at the top.
You're showing, if I can get it
Yeah,
on the screen,
can't,
because I'm just
you
seeing
can't
your
see,
screen.
right? You can't see many of them. That's okay.
Okay.
But I would say Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That's a
Okay.
phenomenal book. If you've ever read
Okay.
that, I
No, I have
love that
not.
book. Um, Frank Abagnale Jr., Catch Me If You Can. I met him personally. I was able to present with him on stage, and it was just a huge highlight of my life. He was a guy that I listened to when I was young, and it sort of changed the way I approached life. So that's great. John Maxwell, I've got a bunch of his books up there as well. I'm looking at the books that I have on the shelf in front of me. Uh, I've got the Book of Five Rings, Mushashi. That's an interesting read. The Art of War, Sun Tzu is an interesting read for leadership. Phil Knight's Shoe Dog. That's a great read. I don't know if it's necessarily a big leadership book. I like Atomic Habits mainly because of the amount of effort that was put into that book. I don't think it's a life-changing or game-changing book, but clearly it's a New York Times bestseller, and he's sold millions and millions of copies, and I think there's something to be said about that. Um, the Institute has some interesting material. I think they've got some good stuff at times, not always, but at times. Um, Angela Duckworth is interesting. I talk about that in my new book. She talks about grit, and I talk about, when I read her book for the first time, she starts out her chapter by saying, "I've studied some of the toughest individuals on this planet. I've gone to West Point and I've studied these cadets as they go through Beast Barracks." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I did that." And she's like, "I've studied the Green Berets, the Special Forces, as they've gone through their selection and qualification course." I'm like, "Oh, I've done that." And so I kind of felt like instead of having a practitioner or a researcher go and talk about what she saw, why don't you ask somebody who actually did it, what truth is? And so that's sort of what my next book is about resolve, that sort of thing. Um, yeah. Oh, Ryan Holiday, awesome. Stoicism, all his stuff. I'll leave you at that. You probably have the
Okay.
next 2 years of reading on your list now.
No, I'm always looking for the next best thing. Tend to be a student of leadership. So, okay, good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Casey, Elisa, I didn't mean to hog the end of the conversation. I wanted to get to the QR code as quickly as we can. Do you guys have anything to add?
I'll add 3 books to that. The Start with Why by Simon Sinek is a great book. Good to Great, and then Sun Tzu Was a Sissy. It's a good follow-on to The Art of War. It's a very interesting read. Talk about some of the things that Sun Tzu talked about was right, what was wrong, and a few other things as a modern interpretation of what Sun Tzu had said.
I will add a couple as well that are not leadership books, but have helped me significantly as a leader. And I will also just say as a female leader. I know that question wasn't for me earlier, but one is the book Quiet by Susan Cain. I loved it because it helped me understand how introverts lead so differently, and also the value of introverted personalities versus extroverts. That one, honestly, sometimes you read those books and it's like, oh, this completely reshaped the way I view the world. That was one of them for me. The second one is Hardball for Women. That really helped me understand the science of, actually back to the question earlier of why does leadership show up the way that it does in predominant culture, particularly US culture today, and understanding also like the dynamics of nurture versus nature of, female, male. I wouldn't say it's personalities because as Casey said, individuals are individuals, but it did still help me just connect the dots of what some of my barriers were that I didn't see, and also some opportunities that I could lean into to take more advantage of, to grow my leadership. So thank you for the question.
Just so you guys know, Michelle had to jump off, but I'm here. I'm leading the call right now. So if you guys still want to continue, questions, you still have other questions for Jason, please keep going.
I can't speak to Casey and Lisa. If you guys have to jump, go ahead and jump. I can stay on for a little while longer. There you have it. Okay.
All right. If there's no other questions, Jason, Casey, Lisa, thank you for your time. And again, Jason, thank you very much for your service.
Thanks for saying that. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, guys. Casey, Lisa, thanks for joining. See you
Yeah,
guys.
thanks for having us today.
Take care, guys. You're
See ya.
welcome.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
Bye.